Hey guys, it's Blue, and obviously you can read the title. This is going to be Pegasus's deck profile for his deck seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie, aka Pyramid of Light. So, when we released Duelist Kingdom, we had said that we were unsure about future Pegasus decks because he had a deck that could have played in a general format. We took that deck apart to refocus it on Duelist Kingdom since it was mostly his Duelist Kingdom deck. And now, as we kind of had, on the table for a while, was to build his movie deck. And again, it's up to you how you feel about the continuity of the movie, because there is some questioning to it, I guess, of where it falls in timeline. If it falls in timeline, we don't really care. It was Yu-Gi-Oh! It was in theaters. It was amazing. And lucky for us, Yugi, Kaiba, and Pegasus, all of their decks were released in novelization. So we actually have a full deck for Pegasus. There was nothing dealt that I had to change or figure out like usually, It's just really his deck built for what it was. So by that same token, you don't have to watch this video because we're using the deck that they gave us. Rather than usually where we're very focused on the cards that were played and not sometimes stuff that is seen in hand or speculated, because they gave us the full deck list. All of them are, very good deck lists as well. We decided not, in this case, not to question it, not to challenge it, and accept that we were being given what was in the deck. Plus, being a movie and not a full anime season, there was very little to see. I mean, except in Yugi's case, and in Kaiba too, but we did see a variety of cards. But anyway, so I'm just going to go through the deck as they built it. It's actually a pretty cool deck because it has a lot of the more modern Toon cards, or at least modern at the time of the movie, or was followed after the movie. So nothing from the GX era, but definitely a step up from Duelist Kingdom. So, Thousand Eyes Idol, Toon Alligator, and some of the monsters here are in duplicates and triplicates. That's because that's how they were listed, but we didn't change any of the quantities. So, Blue has Toon Dragons. Some of them are going to be in different quantities from what we had in our Duelist Kingdom Pegasus deck, because again, that was us building our deck based on what we saw he used and what cards existed. This deck is built solely on the list. So there are 2 manga reran that is in his list. 1, Manju of the 10,000 Hands. So that's a card we've not really seen before, and it's good to help him with Relinquish. He'll search out the 2 ritual cards, or you can search out one of the ritual cards, I mean. And what is cool about the new Toons is that unlike the original Toons, you do not have to pay life points for them to attack. Some of them can be right out normal summoned. They don't have that special summon condition that the original ones did. And a lot of these ones, well, actually the original Toons all were normal monsters. These ones all have their same effects that they do if they're an effect monster. If they're not an effect monster, now they have effects. So it's interesting to see the way the Toons changed after those first few in Duelist Kingdom. The Toon Can Soldier, like the other ones, he can't attack the turn he's summoned, and Toon World's destroyed, so is he, but he also has his Can Soldier ability to tribute a monster and inflict 500 points of damage. And they all still maintain the, if your opponent does not control a Toon monster, that they can attack directly. So, the new Toons are definitely an improvement. Toon Dark Magician Girl, she has the special summon condition though. She needs to be special summoned by tributing the equal number of monsters. And then she has the same effects, plus she gets attack points for Dark Magician in the graveyard. But Dark Magician's not Toon Dark Magicians, because that would kind of maybe be a bit much. Plus, when she was printed, there was no Toon Dark Magician. Now there is, but it's not in this deck. So, Toon Gemini Elf, and that one actually is listed in quantity of 3. And this is one of the ones where it's normal monster originally, the Gemini Elf, but in Toon form, they give it the effect. It has the ability to randomly discard a card from the opponent's hand when it does damage. So again, really cool. The way that they approach Toons post Duelist Kingdom, making them a bit more aggressive and offensive, I would say. Also in 3 copies, Toon Goblin Attack Force. So again, we're seeing a lot more duplicates, and actually some triplicates too. For whatever reason, that's how they designed this deck when they published it. Again, and I have no idea how or what methods are used to make the deck. We just followed it, so. And again, 2 Toon Magic Sorcerers, 1 Toon Mermaid, and 1 Toon Seven Skull. So interesting that the only one of the originals that there's duplicates of is Mungu Rairan, which has the highest defense but not the highest attack, and is a bit harder to summon than even Toon Seven Skull. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's interesting the way they chose. And then Toon Mermaid just all the way at the bottom as far as stats. So 1 Relinquished. So this deck is, aside from Relinquished and its ritual, pretty much all Toons. And then Thousand Eyes Idol to make the fusion. And then aside from Manju, it's all really the Toon monsters. So it's not even Dark Rabbit, Dark Eyes Illusionist, stuff that we used. So it's very, very Toon focused. A lot of the spells and traps are, again, as you'll see, you know, Toon heavy. So it is really a thorough, through and through Toon deck. So of course the spells start off with the Black Illusion Ritual, Shine Palace. Still a finicky card because it only equips the light monsters. I mean, he has an extra one now because of Manju, but it doesn't really have, you know, a lot of variety. So it's very specific equip spell. Still, it was in the first deck we had, the Dual Kingdom one. It still is, but they listed it in his deck, so we stick with it. Next up, Card of Sanctity is actually the only card in this deck that is errated. Again, that's one of our oldest changes, was Card of Sanctity, because of the discrepancy between what we have and what the anime has. So, but other than that, every card here, we have it just like it was in the anime. Everything works pretty much the same. Cost down, Fisher. So he does have a little bit of monster removal. Heavy Storm, so plenty of spell and trap removal right there. Monster Reborn. Polymerization. Pot of Greed, because everyone has it. Snatch Steal, there's a new one. One that we don't see very often. Not really sure why, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to argue. It's a pretty good card to have. There's Resistance Band. And going after that flow of, you know, single copy cards, we went back up to 3 in what is, of course, Toon Table of Contents. And if you were a competitive player, specifically with an Exodia deck at Magical Library, you know, a while ago, which I did do briefly, you'd have 3 of these, and you'd keep going from one to the next, and conclude your search with Toon World. I missed that deck. But in this deck, you're probably going to want to use these each to search out a Toon card that you need, because you can get Toon World, you know, Toon Goblin Attack Force, Toon Gemini off right there if you say you have 3 of them. So rather than search into one to the next, in this deck, you definitely would want this to search out, you know, your little buddies that you're going to need. And in our first deck, we did use this, actually. So that was cut, and now it's back in this deck. And 2 copies of Toon World. His last spell is Premature Burial. So a card we kind of saw go around a lot. I mean, not a lot, but, you know, it wasn't an exclusive card to really one player. Premature Burial has been here and there as just another way to revive monsters, but without the absolutely free cost of Monster Reborn. And then the trap lineup is somewhat brief. 2 copies of Jar of Greed, so Pegasus has some extra draw power in this deck. Interesting, interesting. Solemn Judgment, the ultimate shut down your opponent card. At the cost of half your life points, you give them the middle finger on anything that they want to do. Toon Defense. So here's a trap card. And the only one that really works with the Toons, does anything with Toons, and it protects the Toons. Albeit, a little situational. They have to attack one of your weaker Toons, and you take the attack as direct damage, so may not always be the most ideal card to use, unless you really need that one guy on the field. But if you do, you have it. And the last trap card is Ultimate Offering. So that's the full deck. And then the extra deck being Thousand Eyes Restrict. Even though we didn't see him play that, I guess the impression is that that's a card he did keep around after Duel's Kingdom, being, I guess, his fallback strategy still. So that concludes everything in the Pegasus deck. Again, nothing special. We just, we copied the list. It's interesting to see, though, the comparison between the one we have for Duel's Kingdom deck versus the one we saw for Pyramid of Light. Again, he only played a handful of cards, but having the whole deck list, we now have, a Pegasus deck that could go toe-to-toe with a lot of the other decks. It's not bogged down with tributes and random monsters that were later toonified. So that's it. I'll leave it off with that. So definitely stay tuned for more content, more duels, more videos, more everything, always from YGO Anime Games.